everybody. Welcome to WD Carousel of Podcast. My name's Crystal.
And I'm Ian.
And today we are going to do a movie recap, a movie summary, a movie get to know your movie.
It's like, I think that's kind of what we're going to have to call these, is like, get to know your Disney films, because some are going to be obvious, people know about them, but others are a little more obscure, or not, maybe people know as much about them, and I think it's kind of fun to have kind of a holistic view of the whole film, kind of.
I agree, especially since the library that Disney has is so diverse that the majority of the population only know a slight number of the movies.
Right.
They know the big guys. They know Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, yada yada. They might be familiar with the more recent ones like Moana, and there are so many more in the Disney library and in the Disney Vault that are just as good, and some of them are even very unrecognized and almost obscure. And so we want to give props to all the Disney movies and to go over them, let you guys know what our favorites are, some aspects of them, and why we enjoy them.
Yeah. And we'll cover some, more popular ones too, but but we're going to have a lot more fun with them. With the kind of offshoot ones, which is kind of fun.
So today, I'm pretty sure you've noticed the title by now. It is going to be The Great Mouse Detective. And we've mentioned it before.
Yeah.
In a couple of our past episodes.
Villain Song Countdown, I think, is the one that we brought up. Yeah.
Yes, with Radigan.
Yeah. That's the only time we've really talked about it.
We've also talked about it when we were doing a little bit of Disney history as far as the different ages go.
Right.
Because this is one of the movies that exists in the dark ages of Disney, where not a lot of people remember the movies that happened during that time, but it was a movie that I really connected with when I was a child, and I don't know why. Actually, I probably kind of do. It helps that I'm goth and dark and death and those challenges and all of that work kind of hand in hand with my personality. So it makes sense that I enjoyed this. But it's just a movie that we decided we wanted to bring to light and focus on.
Yeah, I think that's true.
So on that note, let's go over some of the basics. So the movie, you have the basics.
I do have the basics. I have some basics here. This is my phone. I'm kidding, it's not my phone.
So, side note, Crystal has an entire library Bible of facts about Disney movies. I have been banned from bringing it to trivia events, regardless of the rules saying that they couldn't use any technology. And since I did all the research, this is me handwriting things.
Right. But it was still basically for a while. It was basically the equivalent of having Wikipedia at the table for Disney stuff. So it just became not fun for anybody else anymore, I guess.
It is a 3-inch ring binder.
Like a big one too, like the
the 3-inch ring binder of information that I've all typed up and everything. But this is just a little excerpt that I brought. That way we kind of know a little bit about the movie as far as the specs and all that stuff go, because that's not going to be something that I remember.
Right, exactly. So I love that the way you wrote that. It's funny. So The Great Mouse Detective, and as you mentioned before, it was the Dark Ages.
The Dark Ages, yes.
So there's not as many movies that are as recognizable coming out of this era, but I know that you like a number of them.
That is true.
But, and I don't know them as well. I didn't even know The Great Mouse Detective truly existed until I met Crystal. Yeah, so it's one of those things where I'm learning just as much as you guys are, maybe. Some of you. I'm sure others of you already know, and you're like, Ian, come on. Anyway, so July 2nd, 1986... was the release date, which is just deep in the 80s, right in the middle. But so it's quite a big group of actors. Now some are more well known than others. Namely, Vincent Price, of course, is going to be the one that.
And if you don't know who Vincent Price is, he's the king of Spoopy. He is the mastermind of horror, and he is the god of the goths. I don't know how else to phrase it. He is the number one scary guy in movies for a very long time.
Just his voice, you can tell it's that the Vincent Price spooky quality to it.
And he actually was also a heavily contributor, or at least in my mind, of the song Thriller by Michael Jackson. You might know it, recognize it, love it. Halloween, it's a thing, it's a staple.
Let's at least say it's memorable, a memorable part of it. For sure. Now, I don't know a lot of the other names on the cast or cast list, but the music, the composer jumped out to me, Henry Mancini. Now, some of you may recognize him as the composer of The Pink Panther.
That is true.
So that is kind of...
And it has that same almost...
Yeah, it's sleuthy. It's that sort of...
Is it a minor pitch?
I don't know. To me...
I am not that good at music.
No, I know.
Which is saying something since I've been doing it since I could hold a trumpet.
What? Okay.
I was a trumpet player ever since, like... I think I was in 3rd grade when I started.
I would have been in 5th grade. That was when we started trumpet. Yeah.
Moving on. Something you didn't know about us.
You didn't know about us. Learn something.
You were a trumpet player.
Yeah, I'm a trumpet player. Trumpet player for 5 years. And...
So creepy thing. My old trumpet instructor used to say that I haven't been kissing the boys because my cheeks hadn't gotten up yet.
I don't know what to say to that.
My cheek strength? You need to start kissing those boys and get that cheek strength up. Okay, I'm a 3rd grader. Thanks.
Let's put that back in the box and just leave it there. So, now, the only song that I really know, I mean, I've watched it, but the only song I really know from The Great Mouse Detective is The World's Greatest Criminal Mind. Because it sticks out, for sure, of all of them.
It's creepy!
It's super creepy. And it's like just a step darker. Like, it's like actually pretty grim.
Most of the music on here is very questionable for it being Disney.
I know, it's
because you think about it, you're like, The World's Greatest Criminal Mind has a verse where it's talking about drowning children.
Yeah.
And then the other songs, there's 2 other songs on there, and one of them is So Long, which is the song that plays when Basil is in a trap and they're waiting to kill him, and that's the record that's playing.
Right.
And then the other one is Let Me Be Good to You. Now, let's get on Let Me Be Good to You.
I forgot about that.
So, this is a song that challenged Disney for their audience rating. Disney up to that point had always been a G rating.
Yeah.
Then they decided that they're going to do this song, Let Me Be Good to You. And if you are not familiar with this is a part where the guys are undercover, they're in a tavern, and there is a singer up on stage.
Classic
and
Disney material.
Almost cabaret style, being slightly provocative.
Absolutely cabaret style.
And there's dancers, and it's definitely flirty. And you're like, wait, this is Disney?
I remember watching this scene and looking over at Crystal going, are we watching the right movie? Because this feels like it shouldn't be. I mean, like, you know, it's a well-done scene, but, like, also... Is this Disney?
Do you know how they got around that? With the
rating
the
system?
board, the people who were
MPAA,
doing the ratings. They convinced them that because a mouse was singing it, it wasn't provocative. If it was a human, then it would have gone to a PG rating. But they convinced them, since it was a mouse singing it, oh no,
that's fine. That's no problem.
It's just a mouse. It's a mouse.
What kind of trouble can she get in, really?
Let me be good to you.
Yeah, that was a surprising scene for sure.
I also found out that song was originally supposed to be sung by Madonna.
Oh, really?
And then that sounded too modern, so they went with Liza Minnelli. And then they still decided not to go with her and went for the actual singer, which is someone I'm not familiar with, so meh. But It is such a weird part of a Disney movie.
It's a weird part of a weird Disney movie.
When you think about a Disney movie, you think about princesses and fairy tales and like,
right.
And that is not this movie at all. Okay, so like we did last time, let's go over you giving a summary. And a plot of what the actual movie is.
Oh, this one's been longer.
It has been longer.
Okay. As I recall, there is the little kid who's a mouse, right? Mm-hmm. The little girl's a mouse, and her dad? Question mark? Yes. And he's an inventor?
Yes.
Okay. Something happens, and either the girl or he gets taken away. I think it's the girl gets taken away. No. Is it him? It's him. And then she then has to figure out how to get him back, and then she runs into the Great Mouse Detective, kind of the Sherlock Holmes character, right? Because he lives in Baker Street, but like in the thing.
The mouse version. He literally lives 221
Baker Street,
but it's a little underneath the hedge.
Lawsuit from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Anyway.
Who's already dead, so what you gonna
whatever.
do?
It's fine. So he doesn't want to help her, but then he does, and then there's something with Ratigan, and Ratigan kidnaps the inventor for a reason that I don't remember. Something about, he's gonna invent or fix or finish something for Ratigan, some sort of abomination, evil take over the worldy thing. And as far as I'm aware, she ends up helping. No, the Great Mouse Detective ends up helping the girl find the father and destroy Ratigan, but I don't remember any of the way that happened. There was a large cat, there was a couple of songs, they ended up in a tavern with the singing mouse.
You were distracted by the mouse.
The mouse was confusing to me that was a thing. I'm still confused by a lot of that movie. It was good, but I'm still confused by it, and it was so dark. Like, I mean literally dark, not like...
Visually dark.
It is pretty, like, stylistically kind of dark, too, but, like, visually, yeah, it's
This is one of the only Disney movies that happens only at night.
Right.
There is not a day scene at all in this movie.
It's very surprising. The whole thing just feels very... The palette is very gray and very brown, and you don't get almost any other color in the entire thing. The dirty, dingy,
London streets.
Yeah, it was very surprising. The whole thing was very surprising that way, but I do remember, that's about as far as I remember.
A little bit of corrections.
Yes, okay.
So, Ratigan does have Fidget the Bat, his minion, kidnap the father.
Right.
To be able to finish his dastardly plans.
Right.
Where essentially the father is a toy maker and he is putting together an audio animatronic, hint back to Disney, of the Queen of England. And during her Diamond Jubilee, they were going to steal the Queen and put in the audio animatronic. And Ratigan was going to basically function as leader through her, / she all of a sudden gives him a title and all this other stuff as an advisor. That's the original plot. The daughter, being sad, is discovered by Watson's character. If we were to do a comparison, let me actually grab the name. I'm forgetting for a second.
Dr. David Q. Dawson.
Dawson. So not Watson, Dawson in here. And
keeping those layers off their backs.
And he brings her to Basil's house.
Who's Sherlock?
Convinces Basil to take on the case. She is then abducted by Fidget as well.
Of course.
They try and rescue her, and then Ratigan captures them, tries to murder them.
Like you do.
Basil escapes and rescues the three of them. Father's still kidnapped. They have to go to the palace to then rescue Father and the Queen. And then there's the big battle afterwards, and then there's the story.
Now, as I recall, the Queen was an animal too, right?
She was another mouse.
She was a mouse too. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So the entire populace of the story is essentially mice.
Okay.
There are a few additional characters. Fidget is a bat. There is a guest appearance by Bill, And if you are familiar with Alice of Wonderland, Bill the Lizard does make an appearance in the tavern scene, which is kind of a little Easter
nod,
egg when there weren't a lot of Easter eggs going on.
Pixar hadn't been a thing yet.
For Disney movies, but there were still some. Another one that happened that you might have noticed was Dumbo in the toy shop. Technically, Dumbo didn't exist at that time when the movie came out. The time period of the movie, Dumbo didn't exist then, so a toy wouldn't have made sense. So it's an Easter egg for us diehards.
Right. Okay.
But the movie is really interesting. It's really weird to see the dynamic between a rat pretending to be a mouse, because he refuses to acknowledge his rathood. Ratigan is not a rat.
Ratigan.
He has a pet cat that he murders his cohorts with if they piss him off. Like, he'll ring his little bell, and this big, huge cat named Felicia comes around the corner. Just thump, 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 thump. Meow.
Why Felicia? Why is it named
Felicia? I don't know. And kills people, and eventually that's also how Fidget is killed. And one fun thing about Fidget being killed is when he is off screen and you hear him fighting with Felicia, the actual soundtrack is not the actor of Fidget making noises.
Right.
It is an unused sound snippet from the ride Haunted Mansion.
And we tied it right back in again.
Yeah, Haunted Mansion and everything.
It's back. In our dune buggies and let's go. Let's do this.
But that's a fun little snippet too.
Yeah.
This movie is also the first, and I will say the first, Disney animated movie to include any computer-generated scenes at all.
Okay.
And so this is 1986, so pre Little Mermaid, and the one generated part was the clock tower, specifically the clock face.
Oh, okay.
And it's also obviously then the first movie that had integration between the traditional animations and the computer-generated animations, with the mice being placed over top of the clock face.
They must have used that first-generation compositor, okay.
They must have. But this was a movie that is so underrated because I think it's because it's so dark. Parents saw it and went,
nope.
No.
Why am I the child in this scenario?
I can't cover myself. Okay?
I might.
Okay. Let me be good to you. You gotta peek through your eyes.
Peek your eyes and just look at it. Yeah, anyway.
I had to have feelings.
Yeah, anyway, that's a whole thing.
One thing that we haven't talked about yet is the title decision for this movie.
Right.
It actually is rather controversial. Let me explain. Originally, they were going to call this movie Basil of Baker Street. Just like Sherlock Holmes is Sherlock Holmes and blah, blah, blah. Sherlock Holmes and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
They were going to do Basil of Baker Street. And in fact, the animators were so frustrated that was going to be the name, an inter-office memo went around through Disney where they were jokingly changing the name of traditional movies. So, for example, instead of Snow White, it is Seven Little Men and a Help a Girl. Instead of Fantasia, it is Color and Music. Instead of Jungle Book, it is A Boy, a Bear, and a Big Black Cat. So that was their response when they heard The Great Mouse Detective instead of Basil of Baker Street. So they got rid of Basil of Baker Street. They went to The Great Mouse Detective. So, a boy, a bear, and a big black cat.
Was there ever a reason behind why they would change it? Just because they thought Basil of Baker Street was...
just the head of the animation department at the time decided that he was going to change the name. But the hard part of this is the memo got leaked. And it made it into a page of the LA Times.
Oh, no.
And it was so bad that Jeopardy even made a question about it. So this is now officially, like,
it's part
documented.
That is hilarious.
And the head director who made the name change actually tried to find the originator of the memo to fire him and was unable to do so.
I'm sure everyone just kind of was like, we're not going to sign this guy out. That is hilarious.
So nice little tidbit there about them changing the name and the rebellious acts of the animators.
That is great.
Okay. Basil.
Yes.
As we know.
Yes.
Is based off of
Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
The reason they chose the name Basil is because Basil Rathbone was the actor who played the first 14 Sherlock Holmes movies.
Oh, there you go.
There's a nice little tidbit for
something, something there.
Let's see what else we have. Ratigan has a voodoo doll of Basil.
Of course he does. That would be something Ratigan would have. I mean, Moriarty. I mean, Ratigan.
I don't see him being that spiritual, but...
You know, he's like, if this could inflict pain in others, maybe I'll give it a shot. You know, it's a thing.
So, one thing that is not on my list, but I noticed due to inconsistencies. We've talked about inconsistencies before and goofs and mix-ups. One big one that stood out to me ever since I was a little kid is in the beginning when you first meet Basil.
Yeah.
And he comes in and he shoots his gun to try and do scratch marks and compare it to a case that he's working on.
Right.
He sticks the two bullets butt to butt to match them up for their tear patterns. And he goes, yes, no! And that is wrong. That is wrong. Because if they're shooting and you go butt to butt, they should be opposite.
Because they're facing the opposite direction.
But that's an inconsistency in the movie.
Oh.
And there's many other inconsistencies in this movie. Things like Fidget, his peg leg goes from one leg to the other occasionally.
Same though.
People forget moles, lose moles. The note that Fidget carries around when he's in the toy shop for his checkoff list. In one area it's torn up, then another area it's completely blank. So when like they're just showing it like this,
like paper.
They forgot to put like at least little scribbles on there to pretend there was writing.
Funny.
And then when Basil picks it up because it's been dropped, it's a whole sheet of paper. Same thing happens with Ratigan's cape in the last big fight.
Okay.
Like, he at one point in time removes his cape because it's trapped.
Yeah.
And then the next scene, it's back on.
Back on.
But a little tattered. And then another scene, it is longer, but still tattered. And just a lot of inconsistencies with the movie.
It's animated, you know.
It's one that you can't really have too much concern
for,
about consistency, especially since production only took a year.
Really?
1 year for this movie.
Ooh, that's a lot of work.
In 1 year's time.
That's crazy.
That is ridiculous, especially nowadays, because movies take like 3-4 years
easy
to process.
Yeah.
Another little sneaky peek. The map that Basil uses just real quick in the introduction of Dawson and everybody when he's running around his house and looking at a map.
Okay.
If you actually catch it in one small little glimpse, it says downtown Burbank. Nice. Which is not in London.
No,
at all.
But they probably had easy access to the map, so that's funny.
Okay, and I think one more fun little tidbit.
Yeah, that's always, I like tidbits.
So Toby, the dog.
Yes.
We'll do two little tidbits about Toby. The first one is his bark/howl is the same one that you can find Trusty using in Lady and the Tramp.
Oh, there you go.
So if they sound similar, that's why.
Because they are.
All right. And also, Toby does not have any nostrils in any part in the movie.
Same though.
They have the big button nose, but
right.
no actual
nostrils to
breathe.
That is
You're
funny.
not allowed to breathe, Toby. I'm sorry.
Aw.
And I think that's all I can think of.
Yeah, that's all I got. I'm
So on that note,
you know,
have you seen the movie?
We'd like to know.
Have you watched the movie? What's your favorite part of the movie? Do you love the movie as much as I do, or am I insane? Let us know.
Yeah.
And until next time, thank you for watching.
My name's Ian.
And I'm Crystal. And I hope you have a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. Bye, everyone.
Beautiful tomorrow. Just a dream away.